What's up, guys? In honor of, May the 4th week, I have a special podcast of Unpopular Disney Opinions in store. Lindsey is not on this episode, but instead, I have very, very good friends of mine and also very dear Star Wars fans, because if you guys know, I am not the biggest. I do enjoy Star Wars, so I had to have these guys on to come on and help me with this. I have Erik Mihlsten, friend of the podcast. He has been on before. What's up, Erik?
Hey, happy to be here. It's nice to be replacing Lindsey, who I know would just die to be here if only she cared about Star Wars, which is really the biggest shame of all.
Every Disney person has their strengths and weaknesses, and I did give her the option to be in this episode. I said, we need to do something Star Wars, and she said, I'm going to pass.
Well, it's just, she probably would have picked, she would have been like, my favorite character is definitely hands down going to be Jar Jar Binks. And, Phantom Menace is the best movie, definitely hands down, because I know where we're all leading to as we think of our ranking, right?
That would be a crime. And of course, our special guest this episode is a very good friend of mine, long coworker of mine at the NFL, Mr. Adam Rank. What's up, Rank?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. And coincidentally, I'm here because Paul Scheer couldn't make it. And they had to find a bald guy. And here I am. I'm wearing a hat, though, because I'm still sensitive about
Don't be ridiculous, Rank. You're being salty.
I'm happy. By the way, I know, I'm sitting in the set of the Sick podcast with Adam Rank, where we talk about a lot of Chicago Bears. There's construction going on in stage 2, where a lot of my Star Wars stuff is, but did manage to bring over 2 Funko Pops that Heather has given me for Christmas. And this shows you, this is before she got into Star Wars or anything like that. She's like, I've heard you talk about Wicket before. Is he cool? I'm like, yeah, Wicket's dope. He's badass. Used to really love Boba Fett until recently, but still from my youth, I really love Boba Fett. That was one of the first Halloween costumes I think it was the first Halloween.
Recently, I'm dead. Dead.
Oh, you just killed Disney, I think.
Oh, you didn't like that. You didn't like Book of Boba Fett.
You know what? I loved the show because of everything that was going on around it. Really did. I thought there was a lot of cool stuff. I loved the whole thing of the Tusken Raiders bringing him in. I love the spice trade, mixing in the Mandalorian. And then, of course, Ahsoka Tano's in it. We also got to see some, because you always wondered, because I was thinking about it. I'm like, and I guess this is spoiler alert time. You can leave now. By the way, can I pull back the curtain and say that we haven't seen Obi-Wan yet? So
yes, it definitely, we have to say, but also I was like, I'd rather have this episode come out during May
the 4th week
versus waiting for 6 weeks after that, or however long that limited series is probably going to be.
And that could also affect our ratings at some, probably won't, but I'm pretty steadfast in
I'm optimistic.
Oh, no. I am so sorry. I am optimistic as well. I think it's going to be very good. I don't want to be this person who hates what Disney is doing or has done to Star Wars. I'm not that person, but I will say, because it is so difficult to take a beloved character that everybody has already produced their own canon for who Boba Fett should be. And I think this is a huge problem with not only Star Wars, but DC movies and everything like that, because you love these characters so much. You've already imagined things. It's why the Justice League was not a good movie. And it's one of those things you have such a strong will about what it should be. I have spent the majority of my life imagining what Boba Fett was really like, the whole thing, escaping from the Sarlacc and everything like that. I've had it all conjured up in my mind. And by the way, Patton Oswalt did not think that up. That is a canon. The hand rising from the sand, other people, we've been talking about that for years. But in any event, I just think it was Disney was in a difficult position there, but with Cobb Vanth and everything like that, that stuff was really cool. I thought there was a lot of cool things about that series. Boba Fett, I just didn't love. The character development of Boba Fett, I didn't necessarily love.
I loved Ming-Na Wen's character.
Love it, 100%.
So
there's a lot to like. That show was really good. I just, when Boba Fett started snorting lizards, I'm like, Dad, I'm not here. This is not what I'm about. This is not what I thought about. 8-year-old Adam did not sit there and be like, I bet that Boba Fett ends up snorting lizards and tripping balls and doing what, like, that's just not what I imagined for Boba Fett. So it's a small, I thought that the series was good. I thought there was a lot of cool things that happened. I think the Mandalorian's involvement was perfect. Like, it was such a cool series, and just tying in all these multiple parts of Star Wars, of the Star Wars universe. I thought they did a really nice job.
Yeah.
And I think it's very difficult for them. Like with Marvel, like Marvel's garbage and nobody cares about their characters. So you can do whatever you want. And like nobody has sat around for years wondering what the Iron Man was like. Like nobody cares. Like Batman, beloved figure. You got to be very careful with him. Iron Man, whatever. And Robert Downey Jr. is fantastic. He's taking it on his own. But you know what I'm saying? Like that, whatever. Like you can't ruin Marvel.
History. There's more history. There's interest. I mean, you know, there's not much history pre-Hulk. Like after, you know, like you get it right before he gets the gamma ray thing, and then it's kind of it. I will say. Sure. On this episode, unlike, because I feel like other things in the media haven't really compared the movies to the TV shows and or ranked them together. So that's what we're going to do on this podcast today. We're going to reveal our best Star Wars media that includes TV shows and movies. It does not include comics or books, because that would be a whole lot, and I definitely couldn't talk to a lot of that. Mm-hmm. So we're going to rank it 3, 2, 1 as per usual. These guys haven't talked to each other. They literally just met. But as you can tell, they're amazing, awesome, avid Star Wars fans. So yeah, I'm also going to say, as a reminder, I'm not the biggest. I'm not the, like, rank went to the movie theaters. I can imagine, right? Rank when the original 3 movies came out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did not. So there's definitely a different level of fandom and history between the 3 of us. So just want to throw that out there. Erik, I'm going to put you on a spot and start with number 3 for you.
So I think my number 3 is going to be The Mandalorian. I'll come out real quick and say that. I thought The Mandalorian was awesome. But if it was just the second season, I would have said it would be a higher ranking, but it's not. And we're talking about holistically speaking. And by itself, the second season was incredible. But with the first season as part of it, there's no way I can rank it higher than that, but I still loved it. It was one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars to watch. It enthralled me. It had twists. Ahsoka was in there, and that was awesome to see her be such a badass and having a whole episode pretty much for herself. So I just really thought the second season of Mandalorian is really what catapulted it up to the top after the first season, where I felt like first season was rinse repeat. It was baddie, defeat the baddie, baddie, defeat the baddie. This one was so much more than that. And that's what I thought was the best thing they could have done, and made it so much more enjoyable for me.
You know what's funny is that is also my number 3. Is season 2 Mandalorian. I know Rank is sitting here. I'm hopefully maybe not stewing over this, but for me, I watched all the movies back in the pandemic. I watched Mandalorian. I actually rewatched Mandalorian recently as well, and I watched a couple movies prior to this episode to prepare. And season 2 for me, I thought was just a better story than some of the movies.
No, I mean, you know what? The great point about that you're both making is that season 1 has that formula that you see with a lot of DC series, where it's like, it's 50 minutes of the baddie of the week. You somehow defeat him, and then you move on to the last 5 minutes of the show is pushing the storyline further. Mandalorian second season had a lot of that. And to be quite honest, and this is one of the things, this did not fall into my top 3, because you had to take, I felt you had to take both seasons. I But I love the whole thing with Bill Burr, like when Bill Burr's like giving his dissertation in the cafeteria. And I thought that was well done. And of course, like nothing beats the Gina Carano when she's just like, oh, a single TIE fighter, that'll help. And you just your mind starts racing. Because, for people also, when people don't put the timeline together, they're like, it might take you an extra minute or two for it to click in, like a single X-Wing, I should say. TIE fighter. What an idiot. Single X-Wing, like that'll help. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute. And it's one of those things that we never really get to see enough of, because when we see Luke show up in Jedi, like he's now a badass. Like he's now ready to go. He's ready to throw gloves. He's kind of a dick. He's telling Jabba straight up, like, let him go or I'm going to kill you. And he pulls it off. And so that whole thing. And I also like too, this is one of the things, again, why I liked the book of Boba Fett, which again, the nuance here where they show how somebody has such a great deep relationship with the Rancor that it makes that scene in Return of the Jedi like all that more like heartbreaking. Like Luke has to kill him. Like it's fight or flight. Like there's no way that you can save the Rancor. But it also shows like why that dude was so gutted when Luke kills him, like why he was inconsolable. And so, but again, I think that Luke showing up in that moment and his fight scene, when you play it side by side with his dad at the end of Rogue One, then you're like, this is something. Like this is, you can't, like, again, this is why I don't knock Disney. Like I might not agree with the way you did Boba Fett, but the small nuance of having Luke and his dad fight the same way in these two movies or a movie and a TV show, I think is well done. And I don't think they get enough credit for that.
I think there's so much to say. I mean, honestly, I struggled with Rogue One. Spoiler alert, not on my list because I loved it so much. But what I loved even more, and I think it's something very Disney, is the Easter eggs, the small details, like you said, the small detailed nuances or the different small ties. I loved that at the end of Rogue One. That was awesome. But I think that's why I loved different parts of Boba Fett and especially Mandalorian. Like I didn't watch Clone Wars until after the Mandalorian, and a lot of things make sense. But even so, I could tell, I'm like, wow, this is a really cool series that gets to bring in all these different things that you didn't think were going to be brought in. But
yeah,
rank.
Well, that's funny that you mentioned that because Clone Wars is my number 3.
I had a feeling.
Yeah, I had it. It just covers too much ground. You know what I'm saying? Like it's way too important. Like it touches so many different parts of the Star Wars universe that it has to be, and it might still be in your guys' list, and I might have it too low. But again, it introduces Ahsoka Tano. I do love the fact that, it kind of exposes the Jedi a little bit. Like, like the Jedi are still, they're still sort of space cops, so they're not perfect. A lot of those themes, we get to see Anakin to where it's more heartbreaking. Like, like Anakin, like what a good friend he could be. Like what a loyal person he is. Mace Windu. I love Obi-Wan. I think Obi-Wan never gets enough credit for being as great as he is.
I mean, that's why he's getting his own TV show.
Exactly. And he deserves it. And
he definitely deserves it.
And the one thing that for me, I picked 2 movies, and when I was doing the list, I'm like, I'm going to take 2 movies and I'm going to take 1 TV show. And I really honestly went back and forth between Clone Wars and Rebels, because I thought Rebels was almost like, it was really.
What about Bad Batch?
Yeah, of course. Like that's a great series too. Like they've done a lot of great, like the TV shows dominate because there is so.
Well, they do, and because they also introduce so much to the canon. They give you all the fun facts you could want.
Is like, I want to talk about Star Wars too.
He really does. But it's just all the fun facts you get. Like, I mean, would you have known? Like, one of my favorite things I learned watching Clone Wars, and spoiler alert, Clone Wars is number 2 for me, is like, beforehand, I was like, Palpatine is one of the most evil, genius people of all time, right? Like, obviously, let's ignore a little bit of what later happened, but for the most part, we can look and say, wow, like he is incredibly devious and there was no way to stop him. And then you get into Clone Wars and you're like, wait, Order 66 could have been prevented, right?
Yeah.
Like things like that, like you would have never known had you not watched the series. And so that's why for me, I was like, that's number 2 because of so much. It brought so much to the world that you didn't get from the other media content from the movies, and that it just gave so much more to it. So I love that you have it on your list, and I completely agree with it because to me it's number 2. From Provided.
I thought it's not on mine because, to be honest with you, it took me a couple tries to get into, and it was very hard. It's very hard for somebody that is like a wannabe Star Wars fan or a mediocre fan. Like for me, I just wanted to get more context about what was happening in Bad Batch and how the Mandalorian fit in. And, I know that it ties a lot of these movie gaps, but it took me a couple tries. And even still, I felt very confused watching the first season. And I hate to say that it was a turnoff. I think the show is great. I love animated stuff, but that for me, I was like, you almost lost me. Like, and I think that's for me why I didn't put it in my list.
It's funny because you cannot have exactly for those reasons that you're talking about. I think a lot of people who like Star Wars, like I like the movies, I'll check out this TV show. They'll bounce. And now that it's all available on Disney Plus, we'll probably fast forward to be, when does Order 66 happen? Like, I just want to watch it. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people would do that, but I mean, like you miss, Captain Rex and things like that. And a lot of good stuff. Although I do think that Rebels would be a lot more, like if you're trying to start somebody off, like it might be easier for them to digest Rebels. Like it's a real simpler concept of like, hey, there's a Force sensitive kid, this Jedi, there's another Jedi who survives that we never know about. A lot of cool things going on with that. Although, and I forgive my ignorance, and I'm sure somebody who's probably a bigger Star Wars fan than me will probably jump down my throat. Like, how do you not know this? But do they ever talk about because obviously in the Mandalorian, dude never removes his helmet. I mean, until, the very end. But like Sabine's running around like no big deal. That helmet's off all the time. She dyes her hair. She does everything. Like she obviously doesn't care about that. Like that's almost like, because that was funny when you're watching the man. I'm like, God, I go, the Mandalorian would hate Sabine. Like I want Sabine to show up with her helmet off and be like, what the hell are you doing? Why is your hair dyed? Why is it frosted? Like, not only are you showing your face, but you're also just dyeing your hair.
But to be clear, Sabine comes from a different era, has different circumstances, right?
Fair.
Like, so there is that, right? There's a lot of nuances to the Mandalorians, and obviously you see that a lot in which it. I go back to one of my favorite episodes, in The Mandalorian, where you realize like, oh, that's not the only way, right? This is the way. That's not the only way, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, I think you're exactly right. I think Rebels is definitely an easier glide into that universe for sure.
I know that this is not on my list, and we didn't talk about this, but I do think what's going to be interesting, and what's also I think going to be a really easy entry point, is the new Star Wars, what is it called? The High Republic. I think those, they're a book and comic book series. And I do think that they're going to be probably an easy entry point whenever they end up making them TV shows as well. They focus on young Jedis at the height of Jedi-ness.
So Heather, what is your number 2?
Mine is The Empire Strikes Back. I'm sure this is probably one of your guys' number ones. I went back and rewatched A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and I felt like this one really stood the test of time more than the other ones did. Going back now and rewatching it, like hearing all the different quips, I didn't feel like I was bored, and I felt like I didn't need a base level understanding of what was happening to really enjoy the movie as well. Like it would have definitely, as an outsider, like if I would have thrown Lindsay into this movie, she would have asked me probably a billion more questions than she did when she had to watch Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
But I felt like I mean, you can't go wrong with the classic scene with Darth Vader. You can't go wrong with it. But I feel like
unless you're German.
What was that?
Unless you're German. The Germans already knew it all.
Already. Dark Father. Yeah.
Dark Father.
Right.
Of course. But I just, to be honest with you, Harrison Ford was so good. He was the casting. I mean, Carrie Fisher was amazing. I thought, I mean, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but like I probably could have lived without seeing Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. They probably could have picked somebody else, but like they could not replace Harrison Ford. I feel like this was like quintessential, like, damn, Harrison Ford is freaking amazing, and he's really helping this. I mean, George Lucas is amazing, but I don't know, they casted that one perfectly. But
I think Mark Hamill was cast perfectly.
You think so?
100%. Whenever they do the thing with Harrison Ford about all the guys who had tried out for Han Solo, and you're like, yep, they all blow like that. No. Like it could only be Harrison Ford. I really do believe that Mark Hamill, there was something about his earnestness that I thought that they did. I thought it was perfect. I thought the whole cat, like those three.
Well, and he's really, he's getting, like, look at him today, right? How well involved he is in the series. Like he is Carrie Fisher, obviously RIP. But like Harrison Ford is kind of like, I'm done with it. I don't want to talk about it.
I know.
I'm past it.
Right? But that checks out with Han Solo. Like that's the way Han Solo would be.
Yeah. Whereas I feel like Mark Hamill's like how can I engage and be a man of the people still, right? Like, and he
I'm not saying
embraces
he's a bad person. I'm just saying that, like, I was catching wins at time. I'm watching this movie. I was like, it just feels weak, or I know that's part of his character about like learning with Yoda,
right.
and I was just at moments I was like, I don't buy it. But I get it, but I don't buy it sometimes. I feel like I never questioned that with any of the other characters. So, but
I don't know. What are they? I don't even know who would have been a popular actor in the 70s who would have been up for it. I don't know. I should have researched that. I didn't know that this unpopular opinion was going to come out of nowhere that Mark Hamill sucked as Luke. I don't know. I wasn't prepared to have this fight today.
I didn't say suck. I just said that, like,
you said he was terrible. Like, I could have cast anybody. That would have been fine. Not Harrison Ford.
What I heard. I heard that too. Mm-hmm.
Well, this is the Unpopular Opinions. I mean, podcast. I don't know what to tell you guys. I mean, so I think also too, I'm watching it now. I didn't get to watch it. I didn't watch Star Wars until you and I became friends. I didn't actually watch Star Wars. So I've had such a different experience with, I mean, it's introduced to me in my late 20s as opposed to.
I was gonna say that's like within the last decade then, huh?
Yeah. No, wow. I don't think I got into it until it became more integrated into Disney culture. I just, I also I loved when they rebooted the franchise, and they did 7, 8, 9. I was interested in that, but I honestly only became interested because Rank, honestly. He always talked about Star Wars, had Star Wars references, talked about how cool Boba Fett was.
Used to make those assessments. By the way, though, like Star Tours has been in Disneyland since '87, so it's not like a recent marriage.
No, you're right. You're right on that. But the thing is my mom wasn't taking us on Star Tours. She wasn't taking me and my sister on that.
Can I tell you that I never went on the original Star Tours?
Really?
What?
The original one, never went on it.
Wow.
Can you believe it? I worked at Disneyland. Never went on the original Star Tours. Every time I went to go on Star Tours, waited in line, got onto the ship, and then it was some robot's first day. And then all of a sudden the Empire shows up.
Oh my God.
And this guy like takes us down a side exit. And then, no, seriously, then we're like in an asteroid field. Somehow we end up on ice planet Hoth, and we never go on the Star Tour. Every time intercepted by the Empire. I'm like, what are the odds?
This is the most dad joke of dad jokes I think you've had.
What are
Both
the
of you
odds?
guys. Both of you guys are fathers, and you guys are slamming me here with the dad jokes.
I'm so glad. By the way, can I say one thing too?
Yes.
I'm glad Marcus Grant has heard me say that joke like 50 times and gets so mad every time and always wants to butt in. Like, this is a bit. I'm like, Marcus, like, there's two people here who've never heard this, but can I tell them? Like, just watching your reaction just warmed my heart because I'm so used to Marcus being so upset and trying to step all over it. The fact that you guys had the perfect reaction, exactly what I wanted. Like, it's my favorite thing to talk about.
This is like when I take a friend to Disneyland and we go to Star Tours and we're going through the bay and I'm like, where do you want to go today? I big fan of Kashyyyk here. I hope we can get there this time. I really, really want to get there. And people are like, oh, you can pick where you want to go. Yeah. No, it's like, just take a look at the thing and, which planets look interesting to you.
So is when I took my friend Cole, we went to Disneyland, and I'm not joking when I say this, is we walked up to the Guardians ride. He was like, oh, I'm excited to go on the Guardians ride. I'm like, yeah. Do you know what it is? He's like, no, I've never been on it. I mean, anybody knows what it looks like. So we're walking through the ride. He's like, guys, what's the ride about though? And I was like, what do you mean? It's a Guardians ride. You'll see the Guardians, all that kind of stuff. He's like, no, is it like a roller coaster? Or I was like, so you don't know what this ride is? He's like, nope. I'm like,
was he never on Tower of Terror or anything like that?
Literally, the first drop, he screamed like a little girl, like, I can't believe you guys. Oh my, like I cried laughing the whole time because I was like, I don't have to do I thought he was doing a bit on me.
Yeah.
And little did I know he had no idea. But at the same time, I'm like, what do you think is going to happen in a giant, tall building in an amusement park?
What I want to know the thought process there. I used to tell people when I worked at Disneyland, I was like, oh, they're like, what do you, like, what do we need to see? Like, oh, make sure you go to Space Mountain. I go, oh, it's a bummer though. They've changed it a little bit. I'm like, yeah, they used to have a corkscrew, like a loop in there, but then they had to take it out because people are like, oh, that sucks. I'm like, yeah, like the dumbest. I think one of my friends made it up as a kid, and I just carried that forward, being like, yeah, there used to be a loop in Space Mountain, but they had to take it out because it was too dangerous. Not true, by the way.
I mean, not true. If you've been on Matterhorn, you'd feel like that's true because of how
the Matterhorn, dude. I don't know if I'll ever go on the Matterhorn again.
I'll never go on that again. Never.
I feel like my kids.
When I want a realignment, it's the perfect ride.
It is. They're like, we changed the track. You're like, okay, cool. You're like, nope. Back is broken.
Never. All right.
And then they got rid of the like each seat is individual. Like that was the whole thing. Like when I was not to be weird, but when I was in high school, if you were on a date or something, you would always want to take your date on the Matterhorn.
Right. You get to snuggle a little bit.
You got to snuggle.
Wait, was it before 2 seats?
It was, there was no barrier between you and the person you were riding with.
See.
So you would have their arm around their waist.
I see. I got it now. Yeah.
Safety standards, I guess, changed.
Stupid.
Now COVID, who's up now? Is it ranked?
It was me, number 2.
Ranks up. Yeah.
I feel like I should bail you out and do something crazy and be like, my number 2 is episode 8. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. By the way, though, I will say this is weird. Like I had already slotted in a TV show for number 3. And then I'm like, and then I'm going to pick 2 movies. So my 2, there was actually debatable because I'm like, what movie do I want to put in here? And I thought about 8. I know people dislike that movie with an immense passion, but I'm like, that was really a good movie. I really enjoyed that film. I just wish that either Rian Johnson did all 3 or J.J. Abrams did all 3. That would have been fine. Like, I thought that there was a lot of cool things. I don't like that I don't like neutering Finn the way that they did. Like that was garbage.
I completely agree.
Like that's the whole point. Like, and I read a book leading up to 7 where it did backstories with Rey, Finn, and Poe. And Finn's backstory is so great. And it talks about the kid from episode 7 who gets shot and puts his blood on Finn's helmet.
Yeah.
It was a kid named Slips who was kind of a screw up because Finn was always like this gifted fighter because obviously he's force sensitive, which write the series, Favreau, and make him force sensitive and carry that forward. The baton has not been dropped completely. You can still do this. You can still salvage it. Excuse me. But Slips is this kid, and like it really gave a lot of nuance to what was going on. And so then I thought that Rian Johnson, like this is where it's indefensible. Like that I can't defend you on. Luke throwing the lightsaber, like of course, like that's the way Yoda acted. The first time we see Yoda in Empire, he's a scavenger. Like who is this? Who is this jerk?
I know.
Like that's the thing.
I showed my sister Yoda because she did watch Mandalorian to do the podcast that I said ultimatum, either the Star Wars one or Disney Plus original content. And she chose Disney Plus original content, which jokes on her. She had to watch more and she started to watch Star Wars stuff. But I had explained to her Grogu and Yoda, and I showed her some stuff of Yoda. She was like, really? This is Yoda? I was like, yeah, maybe let's just fast forward to like the part where he's with Luke and stuff, you know, because
let's find the only redeemable parts of episode 2 and then you'll like Yoda.
Well, I mean, listen, to do what they did back then with episode, 5 was commendable.
But his character, though, like he's just a little scavenger.
You don't learn it until the 1, 2, and 3, specifically 2. And I remember that moment. I remember seeing 2 in theaters, and I remember that moment where like everybody just like died, clapping, like so excited to see Yoda be like everything you've dreamed he would be. Yeah. That was a cool moment.
It was like going to a concert of a band that has like one hit and then you sat through an hour and a half of garbage and then they play their one hit and you go crazy. That's what episode 2 was like. Like you're like, this is the worst movie. Like Yoda's badass though. Like that. Okay. Yeah. Standing ovation. Like that. Let's go.
Or if you want some punishment, watch episode 2.
Oh yeah. And then as a reward, as a little bit of a dessert, we'll give you a little Yoda. Yeah. But by the way, my number 2 though is not episode 8. It's actually Rogue One. I feel that Rogue One is so masterful and as a standalone. And I thought about this, and this is one of the reasons I thought about it, was that obviously all these titles are available to you on Disney Plus. And as I sit there, and this has happened multiple times, like where I'm like, I have time to watch one movie, Star Wars movie. I pick Rogue One a lot. I think it does such a great job. I love all the characters. I also love the fact that how hard they dunk on Star Wars fans who think they have everything figured out.
Yeah.
Because immediately they're like, well, where are these people in episode 4? Where are they in episode 5? And then there was a theory that Rogue One was going to become the Knights of Ren. And then I forget who it was, but there is some famous like social media person who's a big Star Wars, like one of the prominent. I'm like, well, the only way they could do it is if they killed everybody off, and there's no way they'll do that. And then you're watching, spoiler alert, you're watching the movie, you're like, oh, they're all getting clipped.
If you're listening to this podcast and you have not finished Rogue One, there's a problem.
There is an issue there.
There's an issue. But, would you say this is your favorite Star Wars movie? I know we're talking about like kind of best, but would you consider this probably your favorite?
No. Number 1 is my favorite.
Okay. All right.
So, but I just think it's so, it's so magical. Like it's so, and you get a lot of the high points. You get a lot of and I know that I saw this on somebody's Twitter account, which is a sentiment that I echo about like that whole scene when Darth Vader is rolling through all the rebels, like the baton passing of like the floppy disk. like, we got to get this thing. And then the guy who just has to realize at this point, like, I'm dead, but make sure you get this. And then he gets his, his fate there. But it's like, it's just so, it's so good. And
weren't
you know what?
Weren't you bummed that this was like a one-off? Like, I was so bummed.
That's what makes it so good. Like, it's difficult. It's difficult, obviously, when Han Solo dies in episode 7, you're like, this is somebody that we've known for so long. The fact that we grew so attached to these characters in such a short amount of time to where I was really gutted, like, especially Jen Erso. And maybe because I have a daughter, where you're just thinking about this. And I don't know. I just think it's wonderful. I think it's so good. And I'm almost kicking myself that it's not number 1. It can't be. But I think it's just such a wonderful film that they did such a great job with it.
See, I completely agree with you. It's I wanted it to be in my top 3. Like, in my opinion, it is probably, I could watch that like easily, pretty often. Like, I could pull that up and just watch it and enjoy it and cry because it's so sad, but amazing because it was so incredibly done. And it was one of the best standalone stories that they've done. And it was like one of the, I'm trying to think, it wasn't the first, it was maybe the second or third thing that Disney did that once they took over, it was one of the earlier pieces that Disney did when they first acquired Star Wars. And it was like, to me, I was like, yes, like this sets the standard, right?
100%.
And that it really was truly one of my, if it was favorite as opposed to like best, I would probably rank it in my top 1 or 2 movies. It was truly incredible.
I think because it's a standalone, it's, in my opinion, the most complete you can sit it.
It's a story.
Like, it's a story. It's a singular story. You still get to have the geekiness of where it hands off and the other touch points. But I was just
Che Guevara's in it, things like that. You get introduced to new worlds. You get it's a Star Wars movie that doesn't have, obviously she's at the very, very end, but it does, and I guess, well, that's not true because Darth Vader's in it. But it's not. Damn it! There goes
I know where you're going.
It's like it's not a Skywalker story, but Darth Vader's in it. So,
but at the same time, they don't dominate what the true sort of original the original characters from that movie. It's not a main Skywalker sort of character type of driven. Yes, they're integral to what's happening into the whole universe. But that movie, it wasn't like a superstar at the time. The main character, she hadn't won. Because she won for the crown, I think, after that, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I thought she was incredible, but she was kind of an up and coming, not yet had won the award, and there was no real name value to of who she was in relation to the universe. So,
which is why it was so great. All right,
Erik, are we at your number 1?
Sure, we can go to my number 1. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was tough because, Empire Strikes Back is a very normal, I feel like, top, like, it is the perfect sequel, right? For me, I go back to A New Hope. I'm an optimist at heart, and that was like, that's the series that, started it all. That's Star Wars to me.
Star Wars.
And so it was just an easy one to say, like, you know what, this is the top of it for me. It was everything. It started the sort of the magic for it, right? And when you show somebody Star Wars today for the first time, what do you show them first? You show them
Rogue One.
Right. Rogue One. And just to get them really level set for everything.
Could you imagine?
I think you could go into discussions about how to watch Star Wars into tangible ends, did I start watching Star Wars with episode 2 or episode 4? No, I started with episode 1
Are you kidding me?
because I'm a
Wow.
storyline. But here's the thing is too. Wait, hold
Wow.
on,
And
hold
Rank
on,
is
hold
your
on.
friend? Rank, what did you
Hold on.
do?
Wait, hear me out. It's going to be so hard for me to even get on board with watching 1 through 3 after watching 4 through 6 because of how bad they were. So I thought, and so for me, I'm also like a full, complete, storyline person. It bothers me watching something in the middle. I have to watch from the beginning. It's just a trait of me. I know that. But by the time I got to 4, 5, and 6, I was like, oh, wow, this is so much better than this other crap that I just had to sit through outside of, getting to watch Natalie Portman for a couple hours. But outside of that, it was not, for me, it was like a step better. I totally get it. Everyone does it differently, but
And I just want to add, one of my favorite to the point that was made earlier, Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? There's no you don't get him for long, but
Yeah.
It's just the impact of a character that he had. The father figure, the just the badassery of him. Like it's just, I don't, Yoda doesn't give you that. And in the next one, you don't really get it from anybody else. I feel like in the entire of that series, and I feel like he really plays that part perfectly.
yeah.
And
I think that's why I'm excited for this year too.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
but it's the challenge, right? It's the challenge of it too, because it was a perfect role that he and the image in your mind of what he is, right? Obviously, it's adjusted slightly with when you think about the TV shows and Clone Wars and the role he plays there. But overall, I would say it really was the beginning. Like it cemented it in my mind for me about how much of a fan I was.
yeah.
So if Heather was if Heather had never seen any Star Wars and she started it today, so what I'm hearing is you would watch 1, 2, the entire series of the Clone Wars, 3, Rogue One, no, 3, Rebels, Rogue One, 4.
Yeah.
Am I doing this right? 5, 6,
Mandalorian,
Book of Boba Fett, and then eventually get to 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's how I would do it.
I tell people how much time that would take. Is anybody what? I wonder what that time commitment on that would be.
That is somebody's challenge. That should be somebody's challenge that they have to go through everything. And I guess you could probably split up. You would have to pause the Clone Wars at one point to be like, watch this real quick and then back up. Maybe, I don't know, but I don't know. That's hilarious. I love every bit of this. Because what is I forget what the proper term is that most people do, but it's the 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's I think it's just the completion, like when it was actually completed order.
Somebody came up with the method of watching 4 and 5 because it did become an issue of debate, and everybody's like, well, you got to see 4 and 5 together because you want that impact, Germans notwithstanding, of oh my God, that's his dad. But how is that possible? You're like, well, let's start at number 1 and then work our way through it. And
all right, what's your number 1?
Mine is totally an unpopular now Disney / Star Wars opinion. It is episode 8, The Last Jedi.
Oh my God, I
watched it back last night.
I was going on some rant. I'm so sorry. I usurped your whole point.
No. Here's the thing is I've learned something from Lindsey because whenever she has something that we have similar, but it's different on their list or whatnot, she does such a good job keeping it chill and trying to revert tangent unless you have the exact same points. And I thought that you brought up an amazing point. After watching this movie, I was like, damn, I wish J.J. Abrams just did the whole damn second trilogy like that. I just wish he did everything between 7, 8, and 9. I watched it back. This was the only Star Wars movies that put me to tears. And I'm an easy movie crier. That I should say for sure. I thought that this movie had literally everything. You had the Yoda, it had the original Skywalkers, it had, I mean, one of my favorite Star Wars characters is Daisy Ridley, who is Rey. I think she's incredible, seeing her journey. I loved the Vegas-esque scene. I loved all the different worlds that they had. And they had also, I mean, let me know what you guys think. I think the best cameos in all of Star Wars with Laura Dern and Benicio del Toro were in this movie. I thought it was the most complete, the best. If you just watch this one, you probably could be okay. And also the action scenes were incredible.
As a film, so breathtaking.
You know what it's funny is I didn't like totally forget out of like context, but as I was watching it, the scene when they're on that planet and it's the salt planet and the red pops up underneath.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like that is breathtaking. You're right, Rank.
So,
I couldn't.
I want to point out here, Heather, that under your philosophy of watching, if you were to watch this, somebody would have to get through 100, and I just looked it up because I'm curious, and somebody on the internet's definitely done the math. Somebody would have to watch about 140 to 150 hours of Star Wars before they ever got to episode 8. I just want to point that
I'm not saying it the right way. I did not see Clone Wars in the midst of it. I watched the movies in order. If I could have gone back and do it again, I probably would do all the things in the right order. But yeah, I mean, listen, everybody's different though. Like Rank, when he told me the movie list to watch, he said 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, then 7, 8, 9. That's what he told me. Yeah,
no, 8 was definitely impactful in a lot of different ways, right?
I was,
it's a really good movie. Like I really, outside of the Finn stuff, and even Finn, and again, if you don't read the backstory of Finn and Phasma, that doesn't mean as much. Phasma was a little bit of a disappointment. She should have been better.
Yes.
I know she was.
She was such a disappointment. I was so annoyed with how like they shackled her character.
Yeah.
Wait, Rank, what's the backstory between Phasma and Finn?
She was always on his ass because Finn is a gifted warrior. Like Finn knows what he's doing. Like he uses all those weapons, to great, like he is a technician when it comes to using weapons. It's why he can use a lightsaber. It's why he can go, like Kylo Ren had been studying this shit forever. And Finn's like, here, give me that lightsaber. I'll go toe to toe with you. He loses, but like holds his own, like some kid showing up and like taking LeBron to 9 points in a game of 1-on-1 or something like that.
Yeah.
So he's really like, and Phasma understood this, and she was always riding him because he could have been so much more and would have been a huge asset for the First Order. And then there's so many, but yeah. So like, there's like cool stuff that we just don't like. We do need a series. I know that Boyega is upset, as he should be.
Yeah.
With everything that went down. Like, why not? Like that was but like they can salvage it. Like how the Clone Wars kind of saves the original 3. I think a proper series could save some of the stuff. And I thought that Rian Johnson had a lot of great ideas of like, yeah, that makes sense. Like that version of Luke Skywalker checks out with Yoda. Like that's the way Yoda was, isolated on a planet, didn't want to deal with anybody.
Yep.
That's exactly what Luke Skywalker was doing. He doesn't want to deal with it or whatever. And Yoda has to show up and be like, bro, like this is the same thing that we did. Like I had to do this for you, dog. Like you got to do this for her. And the best part, like I think perhaps maybe the best scene like in Star Wars is when the AT-ATs and everything are just unloading on Skywalker. And he's so like, enough. And then Luke just walks up and just like, that is so badass. Like it's so good.
I love that, that the Force, I felt like more in this movie, especially than 4, 5, 6. I felt like this movie really made you think that the Force can really be anything that you need it or want it to be. Because I never thought about that part of it, right? Luke being somewhere else by the Force. Because obviously when he's fighting Kylo Ren there is definitely Force, right?
Yeah.
Up against the two like lightsabers. And yeah, I thought everything. You know what's funny too, and I loved. There's two different specific small parts, right? If you're watching the movie 7 and 8, you obviously know Poe Dameron, and they don't Poe and Rey don't meet until the very end, and
Yeah.
you don't realize that. Also, one thing I caught at the very end, which I needed to do research on, I didn't get a chance to, was Chewie at the very end of the movie. He's in the Millennium Falcon. I think he's grabbing stuff, and he grabs something from a shelf, and there's a bunch of books that look really, really, really old. And I'm curious if Chewie grabbed the old Jedi sacred text from the island because he was on with Rey before that tree did burn down. That Yoda burnt down, because it's a shot there, and I know it was intentional. I just was like, oh, it took me 3 times to catch that.
I believe that's the case. I can't speak to that with 100% certainty, but I believe that was the case.
Okay, I have to ask. I agree with like 90% of what you guys are saying. You know, 8 was an incredible movie, but Palpatine and the Planet Killers, that was the hardest part. That's why, like, for me, in taking it in as a whole movie,
was that there wasn't that as prevalent, like, because it was so prevalent in the whole storyline, but not in that movie.
Yes, and more like it's just kind of it just felt contrived a little bit, and that's where I struggled.
I could see that. I definitely, the one piece that movie does miss on is the fact that, like, you don't necessarily feel the big power of to like, you get very snippets of it, right? Of like the planet killer, right? You don't get to see that on the grand scale in that movie. If you're only watching that movie singularly, you know, you see the big ship that simply does small lasers and kills the small ships. But yeah, I could definitely see that. There's no grand scale sort of construction, demolition in just that movie. But I didn't miss it.
I do like too with the addition of the casino planet, which people thought was
I loved it.
a throwaway thing. You're like, no. Like, do you not pay attention to the world? Like, that's the way look at our planet. Like, there's wars going on in our planet, like not even in distant planets, like on this planet. And there's plenty of people in Las Vegas or the beach right now who just don't care.
Yeah.
And that's the best. Like, even on I think it's 7, where Star Killer base destroys 3 planets, and people are like, yeah, that sucks. But I'm like, yeah, then people are like, why is there not more outrage? You're like, I don't know. Do you ever read the news? Like, people that's the way people are. Like, God,
Yeah.
at least it's not our planet. Like, whatever. Like, first order forever, I guess. Yeah. So like that part of it, like I understand, but I don't know. And I like the end, of like, there was a kid moving the broom, like, oh, force sensitive kids, force sensitive kids. And that's the reason. And that's one of the things that is so disgusting about episode 9 is it's like, well, I got 45 minutes where I got to undo everything that Rian Johnson did because I don't want to go in that direction.
Yeah. And that was the most frustrating part.
Like, oh my God. And then it was like, hey, you know how we've kind of teased for 2 movies that Rey and Finn are force sensitive? Lols. She's a Palpatine. Like, oh my God.
That was
frustrating.
That was the most frustrating part that brought to it.
I think I have never in my adult life gone to a theater and seen a Star Wars movie only once, but watching 9 only once was enough for me. And I didn't walk out of it immediately hating it. Visually stunning, a lot of cool things. You know, they did the best they could with Carrie Fisher's situation. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, I have no reason to go back. I have no desire to go back. I feel nothing.
I would always text Rank after movies or before certain things. Rank, can you explain this to me? Or like, what is this about? that scene, their situation between Rey and Kylo Ren, I feel like they had such a decent movie up until you got to that point, and then I was like, you just took a giant shit in this trilogy, and I don't understand what happened.
It doesn't like you can. I see because I come at it this way. Episode 7 was not off-putting. I like episode. I'll just say it. I like episode 7.
I like episode 7.
It was a New Hope.
But here's the thing. But like history for us repeats so often. Like we go through the same things. Like of course we do. And it would stand to reason that in this galaxy a long, long time ago and
History
far, far
would
away,
repeat.
History would repeat. And it's also like, I know they're not humans in the, but like a human, like it's the human nature of like, hey, we got a great idea for the Death Star. Boom, that's cool. And they're like, oh wait, somebody sabotaged it. It blew up. Like, okay, no, we'll fix that. We'll put the shield on the moon and have it revolve around it. We've got that idea fixed. And then they're like, nope, beat it again. Lols. So then, they got to go back to the drawing board and some engineer in some place would be like, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we just make the planet the start? The planet's the base. Like you can't blow up a planet. Like, don't be stupid. Like, how would a planet blow up? And then, boom, they figured it out again. Like that's the way that is a logical progression to where that would make a lot of sense.
I agree with you. I was annoyed by how many people were upset about 7. And I was like, why? Like,
I thought Rey and 7. I mean, this is it. Maybe speaking too far, but she had every single emotion in that movie. Like anger, cry, fight. Like there, every single emotion. I thought like she made that movie. I liked 7 a lot. I don't know why everyone was dogging on it. I wish that she had been up for an award.
So the big fan here, the one who's seen it in original format, what's the number 1?
Oh, I know it would be the easy way out to say 4. So I'm going to take the easy way out. Of course it's 4. I knew it was either going to be 4 or 5 like that. I know rank enough to where I knew it was going to be 4 or 5. I was mostly curious to see where anything else ranked.
A brother at heart.
Here's the thing. It's like if somebody was like, hey, we're doing a list of like the greatest single football teams of all time. And like, of course I'm going 85 Bears. And similarly, we would go with Empire. I will say this. 4, they're all great. I love the original trilogy, obviously. The thing, I hated the Wampa, which was a necessary evil because Luke cut up his face and they had to write into the movie why he's got a scar, which is like, okay, fine. But it's like, it does make that movie sort of slow right off the top. Like, we could have let's get into it. Because the first time the AT-ATs show up, that is some of the scariest shit that I've ever seen as a little kid. Like that was not cool. Did not want to see that happening. And we had even seen it got spoiled because the toy showed up in the Sears catalog before the movie came out, which was the old days version of spoiler alert. And then also the carbon freeze pit. Like, I don't know what this means, but this looks dope.
Oh man, to be sold on that.
You don't know. You're an idiot. You're a little kid. You don't know. But when the AT-ATs show up, like that is just nerve-wracking. That is just it's terrible.
I was surprised that Empire Strikes Back wasn't on your list. Like I genuinely was surprised that you had other stuff. I mean, Rogue One is incredible.
Why I don't have Empire? I have Empire. Empire's my number 1.
Wait, I thought you said it was New Hope.
No, I said 5.
Oh, 5. I thought you
meant 5.
No, you said 4. You did say 4.
You said 4.
Did I? I meant 5.
Okay. I was wondering why I said. I was like, wait, hold on.
Yeah, that's why when you were talking about the Wampa, I was like, that wasn't in 4.
I know. I was like,
Sorry.
something's happening. And
Did I say
I know.
I was sorry? What am I saying?
You just love them both the same. They're both.
No, I meant fun. I meant Empire. Of course, Empire. Because the AT-ATs and all that stuff, the carbon freeze, everything that I've been referring to means it was number 5. Boba Fett. Boba Fett.
Confused. I was
all right, I made a mistake.
All right, no, I got you. No.
Dude,
New Hope was too slow to be good.
The whole draft season, I've been calling the North Dakota wide receiver Christian Watson. I've been calling him Christian Watkins. Something's wrong with my mind. I have 2 kids, so that really just changes your brain. You can't think of things. This is why I'm not as good as Wordle as a lot of people. I'm sorry. I meant 5. It's gotta be Empire. Empire, because like you're not used to movies being such a downer. Like that's the first time that you walk out of a theater like, God, that kind of sucked.
Yeah, I know.
Like what good happened? Like is Han Solo, is he dead?
I loved how I just loved how unpredictable it was. And I thinking to myself, like, if I watch this 10, 15, or if like my parents watch this, like it holds up and it's good. It has these things you don't see coming. The unpredictability is amazing.
Yeah.
I know when you said 4, I was like, damn, I for sure thought Empire Strikes Back was definitely going to be on this list.
No, I think I like New Hope always have a special place, but it's like, I really like Jedi. I think Jedi's good. I wish that I love the Jedi. Again, we talked about this earlier about the Jedi opening with Luke Skywalker and everything in the sea of, or the sea of, everything out by the pit of the Sarlacc, the Dune Sea, everything about that was cool. And then he sabotages the whole, like what, although I do want to know what the plan was. Like what would, like, it seemed like everybody's plan was not super cohesive. Like what if, I don't know. It just seemed like, I don't know.
Well,
I want to, although there is in Forces of Destiny, they do show Princess Leia getting that bounty hunter's costume, which was pretty cool.
Wait, really?
Yeah. There is an episode where that bounty hunter, they have a gunfight with him. And because Princess Leia's with I want to say, I got to go back and watch this. I think she's with Hera and maybe Sabine, but they get the bounty hunter's costume.
I really wish they had made a show on short limited series on when Leia met Hans, but not when they met them, but like, their story. And I feel like that's the one thing we'll never get. And I feel like I would be all in on.
Yeah.
How they made little Ben Solo. Quick question before we wrap this up. Do you guys think that, so upcoming on Disney Plus, we have the new Ahsoka series along with Obi-Wan. Do you guys think just based on fandom and what kind of thing, do you think that those would rival something like Clone Wars or Mandalorian?
Clone Wars is a hard one to talk about a rival to, because I don't think there ever will be something that will
robust.
Yeah. But Mandalorian, yes, definitely. I think Ahsoka has a lot of potential. Obi-Wan, I think it's tentative. Like, I'd like to be optimistic about it, but I am nervous about what they're gonna do.
Rank what's you.
No, I was gonna say that we've seen enough, or not like we've seen enough, but I mean, there's enough material already regarding Ahsoka and Obi-Wan to be like, you can't deviate too far from this. You can't make Ahsoka a lizard snorting like softy or whatever they do. Like, I don't know.
You hate something without telling me you hate something. That's what you're doing right now.
I don't know. Like, and it's so different. Like, are you a badass or not? Like, what is happening? Oh, and you get all the Tusken Raiders killed.
Guys, I think we did a pretty good job of our list.
The false finish of me saying 4 instead of 5. Sorry about that. You need to edit that.
I wanted to say the one thing the Mandalorian, the fish lady, the fish lady was like so much a great part of season 2 that they threw in with Grogu's interaction with the fish lady. Yeah. And like people got invested in that. Like Disney had to like literally put something out that was like Grogu did not wipe out an entire the future of this species, like because people cared so much about the fish lady, and which also was I want to point out one of my favorite parts about the Mandalorian was all the different directors they brought in that Jon Favreau had, and Bryce Dallas Howard was probably one of my favorite directors that they brought on for it, and the fish lady was just such a great element that they brought in. I just wanted to make sure to call that out.
I mean, I feel like you could tell which episodes were Taika Waititi's when he did season 1, because there was definitely more giggles and laughs, and I think that's in my opinion, that's probably the best part about the Mandalorian is how they did that directing cast. And if people haven't seen the Disney Gallery on Disney Plus where they explain it, I think they do an incredible job. I mean, it's one of those things where, okay, Disney has a ton of stuff, and then they literally knock it out of the park and make a Baby Yoda, which is probably one of their most popular characters they have circulating in Disney culture right now.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, I'll go for it.
Address the fact that it's not Baby Yoda.
It's Grogu.
I just needed to point that out. Just wanted to make sure.
I had to explain to my sister that it was, Baby Yoda. For people that don't know, it's species of Yoda, so that's why people are calling it Baby Yoda.
Call it Baby Yaddle then. I don't know. Here's my thing. But at the same time, I don't know. It really is off-putting. Not as off. Oh, look at here comes the baby.
Look at Bruce Everett.
Here comes the baby.
What's up, little man?
How old are yours, Rank?
6 and 4.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, 6 and 3. Sorry. My daughter, Ahsoka Tano rank, and my son, Wedge Antilles rank.
No, so Eric, when like on camera, lots of people will have nicknames for their kids. So
name, yeah.
That's how I figured out. Honestly, I thought Frank's daughter was Ahsoka, and I thought that was like a family name for a long time. It took probably a year.
One of my coworkers, their kids are actually named Luke and Leia.
That is like I always joked because people there was a Reddit thread, and people really do believe that my son's name is Wedge. And people are like,
I thought for a long time you guys named him Wedge, and I was like, okay,
that's a cool name. There's a number of different ways you can go with it, because like either he could be a great golfer, he could surf the wedge in Newport Beach, he could be a wedge breaker on the kickoffs. There's a lot of things going on here. So, but people ask me like, is that for real? I'm like, I don't honestly have enough Twitter followers to. You have to have at least 500,000. Before you can give your kid some sort of jacked up name that's going to ruin their life. Like, there's obviously like 30 Anakins in my daughter's school. And you're like, this is insane. Like, you people are terrible. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Like, don't do that. Like, think about it. Like, I don't know. Like if my parents had named me Starsky or something like that, that doesn't mean anything to you, because that's a reference.
I know that.
My parents named me Slater. No, that's terrible too. No. Screech. Here's my son, Screech.
Yeah. All right.
Wouldn't have been cool.
Yes, I know. Wouldn't have been cool at the time.
No.
Gentlemen, thank you guys very much for helping me with the Star Wars episode. I'm happy to introduce fellow Star Wars fans and amazing fathers and friends of mine. Thank you guys so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Pit of Carcoon, right? That's what it's called. The Dunes.
This is awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Anybody who hadn't just go on Star Tours. Kashyyyk is the planet to go to.
No, and I was going to Alderaan, and then for whatever reason they canceled all the flights.